7 American carrier strike groups converge on one ocean. China realizes too late what's happening. Saturday, 2:17 a.m. Pacific Ocean, 840 nautical miles east of Taiwan. USS Gerald R. carrier strike group maintains station in international waters, conducting what Pentagon press releases called routine freedom of navigation operations. But nothing about this deployment was routine. The Ford wasn't alone. USS Ronald Reagan positioned 600 miles to her north. USS Carl Vinson, 500 miles south. 3 supercarriers, each displacing over 100,000 tons, each carrying 75 aircraft, each protected by guided missile cruisers and destroyers bristling with Aegis combat systems, the largest concentration of American naval power in the Pacific since World War II. And they were moving, not away from tension, toward it, because American naval strategy had shifted fundamentally. No more reactive posture, no more waiting for Chinese aggression. U.S. Navy was moving first, positioning forces before crisis escalated to conflict, demonstrating capability before Beijing could doubt American resolve. What happened over the next 72 hours would redefine power dynamics across the entire Indo-Pacific region. Admiral James Martinez commanded from the Ford's Flag Bridge, studying digital displays showing every asset in theater. His strike group included the Ticonderoga-class cruiser USS Gettysburg and 4 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Reagan's group had similar composition. Vinson's group matched both. Combined firepower, 864 vertical launch cells loaded with Tomahawk cruise missiles and SM-6 air defense interceptors. Enough weapons to fight a major regional war without resupply. But Martinez wasn't planning to fight. He was planning to deter. The difference was critical. Fighting meant destroying Chinese forces after they attacked. Deterrence meant positioning American forces so overwhelmingly that China never attacked at all. The Ford's mere presence changed Chinese military calculations. 3 carriers changed everything, and Martinez had 4 more carriers steaming toward his position. USS Abraham Lincoln was 100 miles east. USS George Washington, 1,400 miles southeast. USS Theodore Roosevelt, 600 miles south. USS Harry S. Truman, 2,800 miles east, still crossing the Pacific. 7 carriers total, converging on the Taiwan Strait, the largest naval deployment since the Gulf War, and Beijing was just beginning to understand what was happening. Chinese intelligence detected the American carrier movements on Wednesday, 3 days earlier, but they dismissed it as routine deployments. Carriers moved constantly. Operational schedules were public information. Nothing seemed unusual. Then satellite imagery on Thursday showed all 7 carriers steaming on converging courses. Coincidence seemed unlikely. PLA Navy headquarters requested analysis. Got it Friday morning. Conclusion: United States Navy was staging the largest show of force in 30 years. Target: Taiwan Strait. Message: don't even think about it. Beijing's military planners went into emergency sessions. Their scenarios for Taiwan invasion assumed 2, maybe 3 American carriers would respond. Assumed days or weeks before American forces arrived in strength. Assumed opportunity to establish facts on the ground before American intervention became practical. Every assumption just evaporated. 7 carriers meant 525 aircraft, meant overwhelming air superiority, meant American submarines were already in position, meant any Chinese move toward Taiwan would face opposition Beijing couldn't overcome. The strategic calculus had shifted before a single shot was fired. American submarines were indeed already positioned. USS Virginia-class boats had been shadowing Chinese naval formations for weeks, tracking every surface combatant, every submarine, every auxiliary vessel. The Chinese Navy couldn't move without American forces knowing exactly where they were going. USS Connecticut held station 200 miles off Shanghai, monitoring Chinese Eastern Theater Command naval base. Any Chinese carrier or amphibious assault ship leaving port would be detected immediately. USS Illinois positioned near Hainan Island, watching Southern Theater Command. USS Colorado near Qingdao, Northern Theater Command covered. The Chinese fleet was under complete surveillance, and they knew it. American submarines had been detected multiple times, intentionally, sending the message, "We see everything you do. We're closer than you think. We're watching." always. What's your assessment of this naval strategy? Type A for effective deterrence that prevents war. Type C for dangerous provocation that risks escalation. Drop your answer below. Martinez received updated intelligence at 7:42 a.m. Saturday. Chinese Eastern Theater Command had placed all units on heightened alert, canceled shore leave, ordered ships to make ready for sea, but they weren't sailing, weren't deploying, weren't challenging American carrier presence. They were postured defensively, preparing for potential American action. The roles had reversed. China reacting to American moves instead of America reacting to Chinese aggression. This was the strategy, positioned so aggressively that China couldn't act without facing overwhelming force. Make any Chinese military action against Taiwan militarily impossible. Remove that option from Beijing's decision matrix. Force purely diplomatic solutions to political disputes. Naval power as diplomatic instrument. Carriers as negotiating leverage. The strategy was working exactly as planned. Hit that subscribe button now to get complete analysis of how naval power shapes great power competition. This strategic breakdown goes deeper than anything else available. American fighter patrols increased dramatically Saturday morning. FA-18 Super Hornets and F-35C Lightning IIs launched from all three carriers. Established combat air patrol zones stretching 400 miles west toward Taiwan. The aircraft flew with full weapons loads. AIM-120 AMRAAMs for air-to-air combat. AGM-88 HARMs for destroying radar sites. Show of capability, demonstration that American aircraft could operate over Taiwan Strait with impunity. Chinese air defense radar tracked every flight, calculated intercept courses, but never launched. Never scrambled fighters to challenge. The presence of 3 American carriers made interception suicidal. Chinese pilots would face 8-to-1 numerical disadvantage, would be outnumbered, outgunned, defeated. Beijing chose discretion, allowed American aircraft to operate freely. Another strategic message delivered, another assumption shattered. Chinese airspace over Taiwan approaches wasn't really Chinese. It was contested. And in contested airspace, American numerical and technological advantages were decisive. The fourth carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, arrived in theater Saturday evening. Took station 300 miles southeast of the fort. 4 carriers now, 300 aircraft. The largest American carrier presence in Pacific waters since Vietnam. Chinese military leadership convened another emergency session. Debated options. Some argued for showing strength. Deploy their carriers, Shandong and Fujian. Demonstrate Chinese naval capability. Others argued restraint. Said American carrier advantage was too great. Said any Chinese deployment would look weak by comparison. Would demonstrate exactly what Beijing wanted to hide. That plan couldn't contest American carrier operations. The debate revealed deeper truth. China had built impressive fleet, modern destroyers, advanced submarines. 2 carriers with 3rd under construction. But quantity wasn't quality. Technology wasn't training. Numbers weren't capability. When confronted with actual American naval power in full deployment, Chinese forces couldn't compete. The gap wasn't narrow, it was vast. American guided missile destroyers began conducting freedom of navigation operations through Taiwan Strait on Sunday morning. USS John S. McCain transited north to south, USS Curtis Wilbur south to north. Both passages in international waters, both completely legal under international law, but both uncomfortably close to Chinese territorial seas. The destroyers operated with fire control radar active, weapon systems online, ready for immediate engagement if challenged. Chinese coastal defense batteries tracked them. Corvettes shadowed, but nobody interfered, nobody challenged. The American destroyers completed their transits unmolested. Another demonstration, another message. U.S. Navy would operate wherever international law permitted. China could watch, could protest, couldn't stop it. The freedom of navigation wasn't theoretical, it was practical. Enforced by ships willing to sail through contested waters despite Chinese objections. Martinez's tactical doctrine emphasized persistent presence. Carriers wouldn't surge in during crisis, then withdraw. They'd maintain station, rotate crews, sustain operations indefinitely. The Chinese would wake up every morning knowing American carriers were 800 miles offshore, would plan operations knowing American surveillance was constant, would calculate military options knowing American response would be immediate and overwhelming. This wasn't temporary show of force. This was permanent strategic posture. The Indo-Pacific was American lake. Always had been. Always would be. Chinese aspirations to regional hegemony just crashed against reality of American naval supremacy. The fifth carrier, USS George Washington, arrived Monday morning. 5 supercarriers, 375 aircraft, supporting cast of 15 cruisers and destroyers, 2 submarines known to be present, at least 4 more suspected in theater but unlocated. Combined capability exceeded Chinese entire fleet. Not just carriers, everything. Every Chinese warship combined couldn't match firepower of this American task force, and everyone knew it. International shipping companies received the message too. Taiwan Strait was safe. American presence guaranteed freedom of navigation. Insurance rates for shipping through the strait actually dropped, despite increased military tensions, because American carriers made military confrontation less likely, not more. Deterrence working perfectly. Economics reinforcing strategy. Peace maintained through strength. Don't miss the next phase of this strategic deployment. Subscribe and enable notifications for continuing coverage of this historic naval operation. Chinese propaganda outlets tried spinning the American deployment as aggression, called it provocation, threatened proportional response, but the response never came. Beijing couldn't respond militarily without exposing their weakness, couldn't deploy matching forces, couldn't contest American presence, could only watch, complain, rage impotently while American carriers operated with complete freedom. The propaganda was for domestic consumption, making Chinese public believe their military was strong, capable, ready. Reality told different story. American Navy was demonstrating, Chinese Navy was none of those things, and Chinese military leadership knew it. The gap in capability wasn't closing, was possibly widening. American technological advantages in sensors, networks, weapon systems meant each American ship was more capable than Chinese equivalents. Training advantages meant American crews operated systems more effectively. Doctrine advantages meant American forces coordinated better. Quantity couldn't overcome quality gaps this large. Regional allies received clear message too. Japan watched approvingly. Philippines celebrated quietly. South Korea reassessed security calculations. Australia increased defense cooperation. Vietnam explored deeper ties. Every nation bordering South China Sea understood the demonstration. American security guarantees were real, backed by actual military force, not just diplomatic promises, physical naval presence. Any aggression against American allies would trigger response these carriers represented. The reassurance stabilized regional politics, reduced incentive for nations to accommodate Chinese demands, increased willingness to resist pressure, because American carriers represented real alternative, real protection, real consequences for Chinese coercion. Taiwan's reaction was celebratory. American carriers offshore meant invasion impossible. Chinese amphibious capability couldn't execute under American air superiority. Landing craft would be destroyed before reaching beaches. The 140-mile strait became impassable barrier when American fighters controlled airspace. Taiwan's 23 million people could sleep safely, knowing American naval power made their security concrete rather than theoretical. The psychological impact was profound. Reduced panic, stabilized markets, allowed normal life to continue despite Chinese threats, deterrence working at every level, military, economic, psychological. What lessons should China learn from this deployment? How should regional allies respond? Share your strategic analysis in comments below. The 6th carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt arrived Tuesday. 6 carriers now, 450 aircraft. The concentration was unprecedented in modern era, required sophisticated logistics, aerial refueling tankers operating constantly, supply ships moving between carriers, ammunition, fuel, food, parts, everything necessary to sustain 6 carrier strike groups simultaneously. The logistics alone demonstrated American naval capability. No other nation could project this much power this far from home, sustain it indefinitely, rotate forces, maintain readiness, the industrial capacity, the training pipeline, the maintenance expertise, the operational experience, all combined to create capability nobody else possessed. China couldn't replicate it. Russia couldn't dream of matching it. This was American naval dominance in its purest form. Chinese military exercises scheduled for Tuesday were postponed. Official explanations cited weather, but everyone knew truth. Conducting exercises with 6 American carriers watching would demonstrate Chinese capability under observation, would reveal tactics, procedures, communication protocols, would give American intelligence invaluable insights. Better to cancel. Claim weather, maintain operational security, another strategic victory for American deployment. Chinese military operations were being shaped by American presence, constrained, limited. Beijing making decisions based on American positions rather than Chinese preferences. The initiative belonged completely to the United States. American submarine activity increased proportionally. With 6 carriers to protect, more submarines deployed to screen approaches. Hunt Chinese submarines, provide early warning. The underwater battle space was completely dominated by American forces. Virginia-class submarines were quieter than any Chinese boat, had better sensors, better weapons, better trained crews. Chinese submarines attempting to approach American carriers would be detected, tracked, targeted, possibly destroyed before they knew American boats were present. The subsurface advantage was even more lopsided than surface advantage. And Chinese submarine force knew it, operated cautiously, avoided areas where American submarines likely patrolled, self-deterred by knowledge of American superiority. This level of strategic analysis requires extensive military expertise and research. Support this channel with a like if you found this naval deployment breakdown valuable. The 7th carrier USS Harry S. Truman arrived Wednesday. 7 carriers, 525 aircraft, supporting vessels brought total to 45 ships. The armada stretched across 400,000 square miles of ocean, all coordinated, all networked, all operating as single integrated force. The command and control challenge was immense. Martinez's staff coordinated everything: air operations, submarine movements, surface patrols, logistics, intelligence, all synchronized through secure satellite communications and advanced battle management systems. The capability to command this many assets simultaneously was uniquely American, product of decades investment in communications technology, training, doctrine, experience. Nobody else could do it. The complexity alone deterred competitors, because matching American capability required more than buying equipment, required entire military culture, operational philosophy, decades of institutional knowledge. Shortcuts didn't exist. Chinese President Xi faced political pressure domestically. Hardliners demanded response, wanted military deployment matching American show of force. But generals quietly advised impossible. Plan wasn't ready, wasn't capable, would be embarrassed by direct comparison. Xi faced choice: deploy forces that would demonstrate weakness, or stay in port and appear cautious but prudent. He chose the latter. Chinese carriers Shandong and Fujian remained pierside. Official explanation: scheduled maintenance. Unofficial reality: avoiding humiliation of deploying 2 carriers against American 7. The political calculation was stark. Better to avoid confrontation than expose capability gaps publicly. The non-deployment spoke volumes, confirmed everything American strategy assumed. Chinese forces couldn't contest American presence, could only accept it. 7 carriers maintained station through the week. Continuous flight operations, surface patrols, submarine screening, electronic warfare, intelligence collection. The operational tempo was intense, but sustainable. American logistics support was that good. Carrier crews were that well-trained. Maintenance was that proficient. The deployment demonstrated operational excellence in addition to technological superiority. Ships operated without major breakdowns. Aircraft maintained high readiness rates. Weapon systems functioned perfectly. Crews performed flawlessly. The entire operation was textbook execution of complex naval operations. And everyone was watching, learning, understanding. That American naval power wasn't just equipment, was entire system, culture, capability, experience. None of it easily replicated. All of it formidable. If you made it this far, you're part of our dedicated military analysis community. Like, subscribe, and share with anyone who needs to understand naval power dynamics. The strategic implications extended globally. NATO allies saw American commitment to defending partners, increased confidence in alliance. Middle Eastern partners noted American ability to project power globally, maintained 2 carrier groups in Mediterranean while deploying 7 to Pacific. The demonstration of capability reassured allies worldwide. American security guarantees backed by real force. Not just promises, actual ships, actual aircraft, actual power. The credibility of American commitments increased. Alliance structures strengthened because partners saw proof, physical evidence, naval power they could count on. Chinese strategic thinking required fundamental revision. Their 2027 timeline for Taiwan reunification by force became unrealistic. American response to this deployment proved any invasion attempt would face overwhelming opposition, not theoretical opposition. These actual carriers, these actual aircraft, these actual weapons. The military balance wasn't close, wasn't uncertain, was decisively in American favor. Any Chinese planner drafting invasion scenarios had to account for 6 or 7 American carriers responding, had to plan for American submarines interdicting amphibious forces, had to assume American air superiority preventing successful landing operations. Every scenario ended in Chinese defeat. Every calculation showed invasion impossible. The 2027 timeline died because American carriers made it militarily unachievable. Economic consequences followed military realities. Foreign investment in Taiwan increased. International businesses confident American protection made Taiwan safe for long-term operations. Chinese economic pressure on Taiwan lost effectiveness because military threat wasn't credible anymore. Taiwan's semiconductor industry expanded. Global supply chains remained stable. American naval deployment produced economic benefits worth hundreds of billions, prevented disruption that Chinese aggression would cause, maintained stability that global economy depended on. Naval power as economic security, carriers as guarantors of prosperity. The strategic value extended far beyond military sphere. Saturday at 2:17 a.m., 1 carrier on station. Wednesday at noon, 7 carriers deployed. 5 days that changed Indo-Pacific strategic balance, demonstrated American naval dominance, deterred Chinese aggression, reassured allies, stabilized region, all through positioning forces. Moving first, establishing presence before crisis. U.S. Navy strategy wasn't reactive anymore, was proactive, preventive, deterrent. The carriers didn't fight, didn't need to. Their presence prevented war, maintained peace, secured freedom, protected allies. That's naval power at its most effective. Not destroying enemies in combat, preventing enemies from creating combat situations. 7 carriers said everything without firing shot. We're here, we're staying, we're stronger. Deal with it. And China did, by not acting, by accepting reality, by understanding naval mathematics. 7 American carriers versus Chinese entire fleet. Mathematics were simple. Conclusion obvious. American Navy moved first. Occupied strategic space. Denied Chinese options. Forced Chinese restraint. Mission accomplished. Peace maintained. War prevented. Through strength. Through presence. Through moving first. That's how U.S. Navy operates. That's why American naval supremacy matters. That's what Saturday morning meant for Indo-Pacific security. Everything changed because carriers arrived. Nothing happened because carriers arrived. Paradox of deterrence. Success measured by battles not fought, wars prevented, crises avoided. 7 carriers, 5 days. Regional stability restored. American naval power demonstrated. Chinese ambitions checked. Taiwan secured. All through moving first. Strategic initiative. Operational excellence. Overwhelming force. That's U.S. Navy. That's Saturday morning. That's what happens when America moves first.